This is Studio 809.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors with Hiking Bob podcast. I am your host, Hiking Bob Falcone, and you can find me on my website at hikingbob.com, which has links to social media, my photography website, all the other podcasts we've done, my newspaper columns, which remind me, I need to change that over to the Pikes Peak Bulletin. They are back, by the way, and doing online only right now while they're working through their financial hurdles, which only affects their printing in addition. I guess printing is the expensive part of publishing a newspaper. But they're back with online editions, so I'll be hopefully back with them real soon, but you can still find all my other stuff there. And also you can leave me a comment, send me a suggestion. I just had an email come in the other day through the website. Somebody was looking for some help with hiking up Pikes Peak. And they were asking for some questions, and I answered their questions and referred them to somebody who could help them out a little more. So I see all those emails. I answer all of them, unless, of course, you're spamming me to get a better website. It's not going to get any different than what it is. I got what I got. So all of that is right there at hikingbob.com. And don't forget, too, you can help support this podcast. Kevin and I were just talking. Kevin's going to be on here in just a second about upgrading some equipment here. We do that because the patrons at patreon.com/hikingbob help support this podcast, pay the monthly fees that are associated with it, and pay for equipment upgrades. And Kevin and I are looking at some equipment upgrades that I think are going to help make this even a better quality podcast, at least the way it sounds. I don't know if it can prove anything that I do, but at least it'll sound better. Anyway, as I referred, Kevin is here after being away for a couple of weeks while we had a lot of guests on the podcast. Kevin, thanks for being back.
Of course. Hey, everyone. It's Kevin Westendorf, and I'm glad to be back. In case if you forgot, you can find me on social media, primarily Facebook and Instagram at Wild Westendorf, and at my website, wildwestendorf.com.
Kevin does a lot of great videos on his hikes. I hike with a GoPro strapped to my, which I rarely ever turn on. I just get so wrapped up in the moment that I don't remember to turn it on. I don't carry a selfie stick with me.
Yeah.
But you do remember at least enough to record some stuff and do it. I've tried to do more reels. So all of you out there listening, one of the things that is in the podcast world is doing video with podcasts. I guess for some reason, there's a lot of back and forth. Some people think that you should record your podcast as videos and put them on YouTube. All of ours are on YouTube, but they're audio only. A lot of places do that. I'll tell you why we don't record these as videos. One is there's a lot of editing that goes on afterwards, and editing a video and an audio are two entirely different things. Number two is, as you've heard on this podcast, I go to people's places of business, places of work to record podcasts. And I get to have access to them because I have a Pelican case here with all my recording equipment in there. And I go to their office, I open it up, and in about 3 minutes flat, I've got everything set up because I'm not setting up cameras. So, I don't want to take up anybody else's time going to their office. It's great for them because they don't have to get in their car, travel someplace, and make more time in their busy schedule for me. So I'm able to go to them. I don't want to take up more of their time by setting up cameras in their office. And they may not want cameras in their office. So what would end up is like Kevin and I right now might have a video of our podcast, but then the next 4 podcasts are not going to have videos. So then it's inconsistent. And the one thing that does survive in the podcast world is being consistent. So that's why we're not doing video. Now, what I've started to do is after I do a podcast, a couple of days later, I'll do a short reel on Facebook saying, hey, don't forget to check out this week's podcast or this week's column at the newspaper or something like that, and post it as a reminder a couple of days later on Facebook and on Instagram, saying, hey, don't forget to check, and on YouTube, don't forget to check out the latest podcast. And that seems to help get more people, because, you may see it pop up and then you forget about it. Hey, here's a nudge, and it's me talking to you. And I try to do them also so that they're relevant. So like the one I did with the National Geographic photographer, Jonathan Kingston from Iceland, I happened to be editing my many thousands of pictures from Iceland. So I had a picture of the computer screen with all these pictures from Iceland. Hey, I'm editing the pictures from Iceland, which reminds me, check out the podcast with the photographer from National Geographic who I met on the Iceland trip. I recorded the one with Britt Haley from City Parks about the Parks Master Plan survey that's going on right now, the master plan process going on right now. I recorded from a city park because that's what it's all about. So you're going to see more of that kind of stuff. But for the time being, recording the podcast as a video is not something that I think we're going to do right now. I want it to be consistent. Either I'm going to make them all videos, which, like I've mentioned, is going to be next to impossible. I don't want to burden the guest when I'm going to their offices to do that, and they may not want it, or not do videos all the time. And right now it's going to be not do videos all the time. But you may see some more. I'm going to try to be a little better at producing video content. So, Kevin, what do you think of that? Does that sound...
Oh, I think audio only fits better for us. I think video podcasts make a lot of sense for certain types of shows. Like my favorite podcast does a lot of video stuff now, but they're all comedians and they like move a lot, and like you see their facial expressions, you see them laugh, and you see the chemistry,
right?
Where I think a more informational, educational podcast like ours is more it better suited for audio.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people, podcasts were initially sort of like satellite radio. Most of the people listen to satellite radio listen to it in their cars.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people listen to podcasts, either listen to them in their cars, or like you and I and probably 90% of our listeners while they're out hiking.
Yep.
Or you're listening to it as background while you're doing stuff around. I was changing the oil in the car the other day.
Oh, I did that too. Yeah.
And I had my little bone conducting headphones on while I'm crawling around underneath the Jeep, changing the oil in the Jeep. So you're doing it while you're doing other things. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and some people's podcasts are 2 hours long. Some of ours are an hour long. I don't know that I want to be strapped to a chair to watch a podcast that I'm not going to necessarily get anything, with the exception like you talked about with some podcasts. But for hours, I don't think you're going to get anything more out of it if you're watching it than if you're listening to it. Because we designed these from the get-go to be audio.
Yeah.
I designed it initially. My goal was I want people to be out there, to be able to get everything out of it while they're out hiking on a trail, while they're out riding their bike, while they're out walking their dog in the neighborhood or playing catch with their kids or something like that, or driving to a place to go hiking or cycling or something like that. So for those of you wondering about whether we're going to go video, the answer is no. But you may see me do a little bit more video content in the very short form, the minute or so kind of thing, to just promote that, hey, don't forget, we got a podcast coming up, and check it out. Or we have a new column out, or like I did on the one, both, hey. And I had the two banners, at the bottom with, check out this website or check out this website. So that's kind of the direction I think we're going to go with that. So in case anybody's wondering. We've had a couple of great guests on the podcast over the last several weeks. The city master plan survey or master plan process, which is underway. That was the last podcast. That was a bonus episode because I wanted to get that in before the survey ran out. Survey ran out Sunday night. So if you got your survey in, thank you. If not, keep participating and sign up for the newsletter. And there's still the interactive map. I think that's still going to be available to people who want to go to their favorite park and put a note like, how come this isn't there? Or can you add something here? Or
oh, that's cool.
That kind of stuff. I believe that's still going to be available. It's not part of the data gathering of the survey. So all that stuff is available. Plus, you can sign up to get newsletters. There's going to be a lot more public participation going on with that. Kevin, what have you been up to while you've been gone? Are you doing any hiking out there, getting around?
Well, I recently did a very short road trip. I have always I've hiked Bison Peak several times. Mm-hmm. In the Lost Creek area.
That's a hard hike.
Yeah, it's a beast of a hike,
yeah.
And but I've always done it from the U Creek trailhead, and ever since I had my little misadventure back in 2018, where I got lost, quote unquote, in Lost Creek,
missed a turn.
Yeah, and
that's easy to do.
Oh yeah. Well, the issue was I was too focused on the loop that I didn't realize I was starting at the wrong trailhead.
Oh.
So the next day, because I had backpacked it, I got to a point, I was like, I should be over here on the map, but no, I'm still all the way down here. Like, what? And it took me a couple hours to realize, like, oh, I started at the U Creek trailhead instead of the Brookside and McCurdy trailhead.
Oh, there's a big difference.
Huge difference. So
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. So when I was hiking the Brookside and McCurdy side on that adventure, it was all at nighttime. So I've always wanted to go back out there and hike it from that trailhead, but that's 3 hours away, where the U Creek trailhead is an hour and 20 minutes or so. So I took advantage of my annual Rockies game that I get free tickets for and go with my friends. And I decided, I'm gonna get like a little cabin outside of the town of Bailey or Fairplay. Head there after the game. Man, that part of 285 is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Right?
Over Kenosha Pass. And
Yeah. It's gorgeous. And so I got a cabin, and then I got up really early the next day. And when I got to the junction of Brookside, McCurdy, and U Creek, my foot went underneath a raised tree root and it got caught, and I flipped over.
Oh, jeez. So
I twisted my ankle really, really bad. So I thought I'd play it safe, and I decided to hike back down. Cause I'm talking my ankle and my whole leg was just throbbing in pain. It was awful. And it's funny, if you look at the GPS data, like it shows my average speed being like close to 3 miles an hour, then you can definitely tell when I hurt my ankle. Because despite going downhill, my average speed was like 1.8 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. Despite it being downhill, so you'd think it'd be faster. But so my ankle hurt really bad for like it. I still did almost 10 miles, which means I was almost 5 miles walking back on a hurt foot. So my ankle this past week is finally feeling normal. So I'm glad about that. But with my job, my schedule is 4/10s, so I get a lot of 3-day weekends, and I have a 4-day weekend coming up, because I'm just going to be off that Friday, that weekend, and then they let me have that Monday off. So
cool.
So I'm planning a little trip to Wyoming, because during that week will be 10 years since I hiked a certain mountain for the first and only time, and I just remember it just being stunning and beautiful. So I'm hoping to get back out there and then explore and then take a different way back to go to State Forest State Park, because I've never been, but it looks gorgeous. And then just come back down into Poudre Canyon and stuff. And yeah.
So your trip to Wyoming, is that going to be like the Snowy Range on the south end of the state, or going to be north?
It's going to be in the Medicine Bow area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds like a great trip. That's coming up this month?
In 2 weeks.
Oh,
yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, good luck with that. Hope that it works out well for you. I have done almost nothing in Wyoming, and I need to do stuff. As a matter of fact, the only time I've done anything remotely in Wyoming is when I did a winter trip in Yellowstone with National Geographic.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And we did some snowshoeing, but most of the time that was driving and taking pictures of bison and stuff like that. So that's really all I've done there. I've heard the Snowy Range, the Snowy...
Yeah, the Snowy Range is further north from where I'm going to be, okay. I think.
I thought the Snowy Range was on the south then. I know nothing about Wyoming geography, apparently. So
I just know I'm going to be about an hour west of Laramie.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's the same area I'm thinking of, so I might have it backwards.
Okay.
I know the area, but I'm thinking the wrong mountain range.
Okay.
Well, good. I hope that works out well. We'll have to have you back and talk about how that went for you.
Yeah.
And how that goes. I've just been doing a lot of hiking. People watch my social media, see what I've been doing. We took a week. We went to Salida. We found a campground there, an RV park that we really like. We bring the camper out there.
Oh, cool.
They're dog friendly, wonderful people who run the place. They really take care of you. I did some hiking there. That was a week, unfortunately, when the monsoons were in.
Oh,
so it was like every afternoon by 2 o'clock, it was raining. I had to be off my trail. So I did hike 3 hikes, I think, 3 or 4 hikes while I was there for the week. I usually take one day when we all go out and we just drive around and take a look at stuff and just kind of relax for a day. I didn't get to do as much as I wanted because of the weather. It was thundering and lightning and raining, and that's no fun. But had a good time out there. Wildflowers were crazy, and just kind of scouted some places for future trips and maybe a fall colors thing. We're not sure what I'm doing for fall colors yet. I will be going back east later in October, so probably after most of the fall colors are done here, then I'll be going to upstate New York. So for a trip. So I'll be doing that, but just checking out things here. And weirdo, I've already been getting questions about when we're going to see the fall colors, and I have a fall colors hike planned for a group, but we have it spread out over 3 different weekends because we just don't know when.
Oh, okay.
The time. And I think we'll know in the next couple of weeks. Usually around late August is when the fall color prediction calendars come out.
Okay.
SmokyMountain.net I think is the one that has a really good one. We're waiting on that. That should come out pretty soon. Then we're going to get a better bead. And no, it's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty darn close. It's not off by more than a few days in any one direction.
Okay.
We're talking about Mother Nature here. It's like predicting the weather. You can't even. You're not 100% on a weather prediction more than 3 days out. Any meteorologist will tell you that. They can give you trends, but predicting weather is a 3-day thing. When you're predicting fall colors for the next couple of months, you're taking a wild ass guess. But it tends to be these calendars that come out are getting better, and they tend to be pretty good because they're looking at moisture and temperature and what they've had over the year and stuff. So we should know something in the next few weeks. And when that calendar comes out, I typically include it in my newsletter, include it in on my social media. We'll talk about it here on the podcast. That calendar is out, and you can get a better bead on when the fall colors are gonna be. I have a little flexibility. I'm going to New York to go to an event at the Baseball Hall of Fame. People know we're big baseball fans here, and we are members of the Hall of Fame. And we got invited to a special event in October, so I can't change too much. Right now, I have it planned that I'm going to fly into New York, fly into Albany, go to the Baseball Hall of Fame for a couple of days, and then spend the rest of the following week after that doing fall colors.
Nice.
I'm going to the Finger Lakes area, Watkins Glen, that whole area. The best I can do is if fall colors are going to be early, I'll shift it to where I do the fall colors first, then do the Hall of Fame at the end of my trip, and then come home. So that's kind of wiggling where, how that whole thing is going to go together. But anyway, that's the boring part of that. That's what that all is. But that's kind of the idea. So I can't change much of it because I'm going for this event that they're having for certain level members, and I'm going to be going for that. But I'm looking forward to fall colors in New York. So I'm going to get 2 things, 2 of my favorite things, fall colors and waterfalls.
Nice. Awesome.
The worst that could happen is that I'm early and everything's still green, but that's okay because then I still have trees and waterfalls. If I go late, then I end up with bare trees and waterfalls.
I see.
So cool.
Yeah.
If I'm right, I get fall colors and waterfalls. It's all very boring to people listening to this, but that's actually kind of the thought process when I plan my trips. This is what everything is all about. Let's talk about Wyoming. You and I talked some time ago about this court battle that was happening in Wyoming. And it involves landowners who have vast acres of land in Wyoming. And it happens in other parts of the country too, but it seems to be Wyoming is where this is most prevalent. And within these vast amounts of private land they own are holdings of publicly owned land, typically BLM. I think for the most part it's BLM land. Those lands are public lands, so they should be available to the public for hunters or fishermen or anglers or people who want to go hiking or whatever. The problem is they're checkerboarded, so you can't just drive in to this area and drive straight to this piece of land because you have to cross a lot of private land. And you and I have talked about private property owners should be able to do whatever they, should be able to exclude or include people as they wish. It's their land. We obviously would rather they include people to go through their land, but obviously they're not under any obligation to. So there's end up with this checkerboarding, so it's almost impossible to get to these inner holdings of land. And what happened was a couple of rather enterprising hunters went out and they were able to access a piece of private land, a public land from the outside, and they drug a stepladder with them. And this is ingenious. And where these four corners met, where there was 2 private lands and then 2 public lands, they put a stepladder up over the fence, went up the stepladder on one piece of public land and down on the other piece of public land. Never touched private land. The private landowner, in this case a quote-unquote rancher who doesn't even live there and lives in North Carolina, just because you own a lot of land does not make you a rancher, first filed a criminal complaint that these guys trespassed because they violated his airspace. Here's the thing. You don't own your airspace. Courts, they went to court. Criminal court said no. Then there was a lawsuit. He sued them for going over his airspace. Courts again said, nope, you can't. No, they didn't hurt you. You can't do anything about it. So about a year ago, we talked about how a federal district court once again ruled that the private landowner could not stop these people from going over, and remember, they're never touching his private land and are not harming his private land. They don't hurt his fences. They don't take down his fences. Don't do anything like that. Of course, if they did, it'd be a whole different ball of wax. And I would argue that they're wrong. They use a ladder. They go up and over. It'd be almost like if I went out there with a pole vaulted from one piece to the other. If I'm not touching your land, I'm not touching your land. Well, it came out today, or a couple days ago, that now this same private landowner, who because he owns he's a billionaire and owns a lot of land in Wyoming, but lives in North Carolina, that he makes himself a rancher. I'm sure people who live in Wyoming probably would have a different opinion of what a rancher is. He's now going to the U.S. Supreme Court. He's petitioned to go to the U.S. Supreme Court for this case. Now, a lot of things could happen. The Supreme Court doesn't hear every case that's presented to them.
Yeah.
They either just refuse to hear it, which happens a lot, which means if they refuse to hear a case, they'll look at it, judge it on its merits, and decide whether they think this is something that needs the top-level review in the country. You get to the Supreme Court, that's the top of the top. They may say, we probably want to delve into this a little bit. We want to hear more about this. We'll hear this case. Or they may just decide not to hear it, in which case the last ruling before theirs is the one that stands.
Okay.
So we don't know what's going to happen yet. But I just think that this is a case of somebody who just is not getting the message. Nobody has ever agreed with this property owner. And you're not a rancher just because you own a crap load of land and you live on the other end of the country. That doesn't make it. I buy steak. That doesn't make me a cattleman. Well, I mean, just, Well, it's like when I was in high school, I rode a skateboard, so it made me the same as Tony Hawk. You mean you're not?
Nope. Oh. Shocker, I know.
And when we first talked about this, Kevin and I think I used the word that this is pretty stupid. And somebody emailed me and said, well, it's not a stupid topic. No, it's not. I want to make it clear. This is a serious topic because if this idiot prevails, this changes a lot of things in a lot of ways. The idea that you own your airspace is stupid because nowhere in this country do you as a private landowner own the airspace above your house. You don't get to control jet aircraft flying over your house. You don't get to control weather balloons flying over your house. You don't get to control satellites coming over your house. You don't get to control any of that. You don't get to control, as uncomfortable as it makes people feel, drones flying all over your house. I have a completely different opinion on that, but as of now, you have no control over the airspace in your house. If they decide that you can now control airspace over your residence, over your property, even when it does no harm to you, that opens up a can of worms that I'm pretty sure nobody wants to get into.
Exactly.
Because, okay, so if they decide you control the airspace over your... Now, these guys are probably, 6 feet over the ground. They put up a ladder, they come over... How long? These are barbed wire fences, so they're probably 5 feet tall, 4 feet tall. So they're maybe 6 feet off the ground. So how much airspace do you control? 6 feet? 10 feet? 100 feet? 1,000 feet? 10,000 feet? Where does it end? How much airspace do you control? And if it doesn't harm anything, and you don't touch anybody's property, it's a can of worms that I'm pretty sure nobody wants to get involved in. And all the courts have said that this guy had no basis for wanting to control his airspace. And what he's doing is he's using his private ownership of these interlocking pieces of land in his checkerboard to use his public land as his own land and keeping everybody else out.
Yep.
So what's he hiding back there? What's he doing back in this land he doesn't want anybody to see? Maybe it's time to fly drones over this guy's property.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can we get 1,000 drone operators just buzz his property all day? Anyway, your thoughts?
I think it's a good example of someone with much more money than sense. Because it sounds like he's on a power trip. He's
Oh yeah.
he's trying to find stuff to get mad about, and I'm trying to think of something similar that's more scaled down to my level. I'm not sure.
You mean poor blue collar working man level?
Yeah. But it's petty. It's a waste of time and resources, and I think it's just because he has so much money, he thinks he should have special rights over others, and he's trying to pursue those extra rights through the court system.
Well, here's the thing, dude. I'm talking to this guy. Maybe nobody told you no as a kid, and people still aren't telling you no. People are starting to tell you no, and I get that makes you all butthurt, but every once in a while, it's good for you to be told no. And so far, everybody's told you no. So maybe the answer to your question is no. You can't stop people from doing that. If you don't like it, then maybe ask the government if they'll sell you all the land. And then you can do whatever the hell you want. Because I've always said private property owners can do what they want. But I don't like that they checkerboard this so that they keep everybody out from public lands.
Yeah, and I've also wondered this about the wealthy, not all of them, but some, that they're so comfortable in life with the amount of money that they have that they find stuff to get mad about, because they have to have some kind of other meaning in life besides just I have a lot of money.
Right. Yeah, and this was the 10th U.S. Circuit that ruled unanimously.
Oh, okay.
Against him. So take a hint.
Yeah.
You know, I think the other thing is not only does he have the money to find something to be mad about, but he just wants to buy his way into controlling this property. And so far, the answer has been no. So we don't know if the Supreme Court's even going to take the case. You know, they look at, decisions. They look at what's happened in the past. They look at they read the decisions from the previous courts to make sure they didn't find any fault in their reasoning. There's a lot that goes into whether the Supreme Court decides whether to take a case or not. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I am hoping the Supreme Court just kind of throws it back and goes, what, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Even this Supreme Court might be a little more diplomatic than that, but I wouldn't be surprised. They may, and sometimes they just say no and they don't say a reason, and they don't have to. They'll just say, we're just not going to hear this one. And then if that happens, like I said, the last one, which would be this one, 10th Circuit Court, would be the one that just was the last thing, and it was unanimous. They look at that too. Was there division in the judges who heard this case? And so what was their base of their division? Did they decide? Did some of them have a compelling argument why they didn't agree? But when it's unanimous, again, that's what their job is to do. So I would almost be surprised if they take it.
Yeah, same here.
But who the heck knows? And if they do, it's going to be a year down the road because they don't meet again till, well, the next session starts in October. First Monday in October is when the Supreme Court session starts. They are probably already pretty set of what they're going to hear in this session. So it may be another year. So this could be in the meantime, the 10th Circuit Court decision stands until somebody says otherwise, if somebody says otherwise. So may you live in interesting times, as the Chinese curse is. But we've talked about this a lot before. Like there's some 14ers in Colorado that are privately owned. I've argued that those private landowners are allowed to, if they wish, to control access to them. We would like them, encourage them, make it easy for them to be free of liability and allow people to use their property. But I'm under no opinion that they should be forced to allow anybody to on their property if they don't want to. And it's actually worked out well. The couple of peaks that were closed, some changes in rulemaking and legislation got those property owners to allow their peaks to be open. Another peak, you have to pay a fairly hefty fee and sign a pretty lengthy waiver, but they will let you up there. That's their prerogative. They're protecting themselves. I get it. But for now, all the 14ers in Colorado, you can't access in one way or another. I believe all of them. I think we finally resolved it.
I think you can, yeah.
I think you can. But it took a little bit of time to get them to agree. And they had legitimate concerns. They weren't just being get off my lawn. They had concerns about liability, and the legislation that was in effect at the time was very vague, and they were scared. And their lawyers were telling them, if this happens, I don't know how I can defend you. So they have to pay attention to their legal counsel. Whether you think their legal counsel is right or not, that's their legal counsel, and you and I are not. And I'm not a lawyer, so, but we were able, we in the outdoor community and the government were able to work it out with them to allow access. That's the way it should be. I do want access to all these lands, but I'm not under any disillusionment that we should force anybody to do it. Private land ownership and your rights to your private land are a hallmark of the founding of this country, that you're secure in your property. So a Fourth Amendment right, you're securing your property. So we'll see what happens with the clown boy over here from North Carolina, who seems to think that he can control this land. No. Everybody said no. Take a hint. No. Kevin, let's move on to another thing. I was looking at some social media. I should really not do much of that. And there was a comment on, I think it was on Threads, and I don't remember who made it. It popped up on not even anybody I follow, where they were talking about how people voice their opinions of how other people go hiking. Some people take too long or go too slow. Some people go too fast. Some people use hiking poles. Some people don't. Everybody has an opinion about what everybody else does. My comment in reply to this was, unless you're asked. Well, first I said, we've become a society where everybody thinks everybody cares what your opinion is.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Nobody gives a damn what your opinion is. Unless you're asked, nobody cares what your opinion is. So why people think they have to comment on whether somebody hikes too slow or somebody hikes too fast, or why they need to have an opinion whether somebody uses hiking poles or somebody doesn't use hiking poles. We've become a society where, thanks to social media, the pluses and minuses of social media, where everybody thinks their opinion is relevant. Now, I want to be clear. You and I discuss our opinions on public policy. We just did.
Yep.
That's different because this is policy that affects how we interact, and it's all matter of public policy. Whether you should pay for a park pass, or whether parks should be free, or all these kind of things. What rules parks have, and how our lands are administered. We're commenting, voicing our opinion on public policy. We've also voiced our opinion on people who obviously misbehave because they're doing something that is wrong, and we think they're wrong. But I've never been on here and said, well, that guy's an idiot because he hikes in sneakers. Now, I don't think that that's a great idea, but that's not, and I don't hike in sneakers. I hike in nice sturdy boots because that's what my ankles need to be supported and everything.
Same here.
That doesn't make that other person wrong. That's just their thing. And I may look at that and go, well, I wouldn't do that, but I'm not going to voice my opinion. I'm not going to stop this guy and say, what are you, stupid? You're hiking in sneakers. Because it's just a different, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because
if I see somebody hiking with hiking poles, I often don't hike with hiking poles. Why? Because I have a dog. You ever try to use two hiking poles and have a dog on a leash? You're going to end up with, you got to either spear yourself, shish kebab yourself with a hiking pole, or trip over something. So a lot of times I don't hike with a hiking pole. I have them, and I wear them on long hikes when I'm by myself and carrying a heavier pack, like a backpacker does. But people are like, who doesn't hike with hiking poles? Why do you care?
Yeah, it's fine. It's like I've seen people with unorthodox ways to get on the trails. Like I'll see someone hiking who is carrying a gallon jug of water, and I'm like, okay, there's better ways to do that. Right. But I'm not standing there being like, what an idiot and stuff.
At least he's carrying water.
What?
At least they're carrying water. They're being hydrated, so I'll give them some points for that.
Exactly. And one time I saw a woman hiking in bell bottoms. So I was just like, that's a choice. But my thoughts like oh, she's a newbie or whatever. But it was more like, yeah, there's better types of clothes to wear on hikes than blue jean. And because they were bell bottoms, like just the first foot of each leg, which is soaked with water and from the trail. But I've definitely learned in outdoor spaces, there's a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of judgment. I have a lot of friends who are mountain bikers, and they've talked a lot about that too. How it's especially bad within the mountain biking,
Really?
and stuff. Just like brand names and like,
Oh, good God.
like I have this type of suspension on my bike, and like if you don't have this brand, then you're doing it wrong and stuff. And I even realized I've had to watch how I describe certain things that I do because I made a comment on one of my videos on Instagram about how like I'm finally doing a real hike after doing a bunch of small ones in like Cheyenne Canyon or the Garden of the Gods area. And my friend brought up a good point, saying like when you talk like that, you're telling people that if they do a mile-long hike, like in the garden, when I talk like that, I'm saying that's not a valid hike. And I know we've talked about like is it still a hike if it's on pavement or is it still a trail? Like if it's dirt and stuff.
And we got a lot of pushback over that too.
Oh, we did. Okay.
Yeah, I got a lot of pushback on that.
And
that's okay.
Yeah, and I just think it's important to realize like the gatekeeping is bad, and it pushes people away from being in the outdoors, and I think ultimately that's a terrible thing to happen.
Yeah, and I think you could, I think that your friend might have been pushing it a little by you saying a real hike. It was a real hike for you.
Yeah.
So I mean, if anybody takes that, I don't know how you worded it exactly, so I'm not going to pass judgment on it. People see the hikes I do. They're not tremendously long hikes. I am not a through hiker. I'm not a backpacker. I am a day hiker. I do a lot of day hikes. I will talk about how, I do 3-mile hikes. I do 8-mile hikes. I did a 6.5-mile hike. It just depends on a lot of things. It doesn't matter what somebody does. They're out there. That's kind of good. Now, gatekeeping is a term I've heard, and I've had a little issue with that because, if there's a trail that let me take a step back. I got a lot of grief from people when I was writing my newspaper columns at The Independent and later that you told people all about my trail, and I don't want you telling people about my trail.
Oh, yeah.
Well, number one, any trails I talk about are already public, and they're usually on a map someplace. And there's a lot of analysis I do before I write about a trail. Does it have adequate parking? Is it truly a public trail? Is it accessible? In other words, can I write about this trail and have people go there and not create a negative impact for people who might live in that area? There are trailheads that I know of that are in neighborhoods.
Same here, yeah.
Right. I'm not going to tell you about those. You may find them on your own. I'm not going to write about those because I know that they're in a neighborhood. There's really inadequate parking as it is, and I don't want 400 other people going there. Now, am I a gatekeeper because of that? I don't think so. I think I'm being responsible by controlling how I publicize trails. And sometimes I've been on hikes and I don't write about them because I felt that they were either maybe not a safe trail, maybe. Now, some people say I'm gatekeeping, but I'm not. I think I'm not telling anybody to not go there. I'm just electing to not make this a bigger publicly. If you want to know about this trail, go get your own damn map and look it up yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. I think that's responsible journalism and responsible social media use on my part. Some people say I'm gatekeeping. I don't think I'm gatekeeping. Gatekeeping would be telling you not to go there. I won't do that unless I think you're violating the law or something. And even then, I can't do anything about it. You live with your own conscience on what you should do. And if you happen to get caught, I warned you that you weren't supposed to be there. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I think we've gotten to the point where people just seem to think, because we all have this social media, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X or Twitter or whatever the hell it is, Blue Sky, all these other social media, TikTok, YouTube, that everybody seems to think, and I'm not saying people shouldn't have their opinions.
Oh, yeah.
And feel free to voice your opinion. But I think that when it gets to the point where your opinion is, if you only hike a mile a day, you're a crap hiker. Nobody wants to hear that because it's none of your damn business.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell people I am not a through hiker. I am not a backpacker. And I don't say I am. People say, what kind of hikes you do? I do day hikes. And I always say, more power to the people who can do through hikes and be backpackers and have that ability, because that's just not my bag. And those people are not interested necessarily in doing day hikes. It's I had a long conversation the other day with my mom, and we were talking about the Pikes, the Manitou Incline. I used to do the incline quite a bit. I don't do it anymore because it's just not my thing.
Yeah, same here.
My opinion of people who do it is more power to you. I personally think there's more interesting hikes to do. But if you like hiking the Manitou Incline, some people do it every day or multiple times a day or multiple times a week. Okay. Have fun. I'm not going to sit there and say you're a crap hiker because that's the only thing you do. No, that's an opinion nobody wants. Now, if my opinion of the Manitou Incline is it's a very difficult hike, that's my opinion of the Manitou. And by the way, it is. Nobody's going to tell you it's not. But you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? When your opinion is that somebody is lesser than you because of the equipment they have, the bike they have, the clothing they wear, their choices and stuff. Now, we can always comment later that if that choice gets them in trouble, then maybe they should have rethought that choice. But you know what I'm saying? It's I don't know. I don't know if I'm making it clear that I just think that everybody seems to think their opinion is relevant and wanted, and for the most part, no, it's not.
That's why when it comes to hiking, I will post a video on Instagram and say, here are my thoughts on this trail, and here's why I've had this type of brand of shoe for many, many years. And then people will ask me stuff too, and then I tell them, but it'd be like me saying, like, my first real pair of hiking boots were LL Bean. They're not really known for like outdoors, or they have an outdoorsman brand.
They're kind of boutique-y.
Yeah. And the boots were not great and stuff. I just didn't know better at the time.
Well, they had a big name. You thought you were getting good stuff. Yeah.
But I probably would have backed off on hiking and stuff if someone judged my pair of boots. And I've had friends say, like, I've never really gone on a big hike, but then I saw your post about Spruce Mountain Open Space, and it looked really easy. So I did that, and I had a blast, and I had no idea about this place, and because I was up there like a month ago, and it's beautiful out there. When I say gatekeeping, I think it's when others are being judgmental of you for their opinions. Because I know before I got into hiking, I had those certain friends who were like big time hikers and with 14ers and stuff, and it's intimidating. And it doesn't help that the outdoor scene in the various sports, there is a lot of judgment, a lot of elitism, and a lot of class stuff is involved. Where I talked about how you can get cheap clothes at Walmart and stuff.
We've talked about it here. I don't pay full price for anything.
Yeah. So. It's just it's frustrating to see that out in the open, and I think you're right that social media gives us a false sense of authority because it's such an easy way to amplify your voice.
Right, and I want to make it clear. I can say that in my opinion, I get asked. I just got asked a week ago, what boots do I wear when I go hiking? And I said, would you want to know what I have right now? And they go, yeah. And I said, I have a pair of Hokas, I have a pair of Obos, I have a pair of North Face, and I have a pair of Solomons. I said, which do you like the best? Well, out of those brands, those particular models that I have right now, I like all of them for different types of hikes. I've had my negative experience with hokas. Again, my opinion on the hokas, but I also was able to show I was able to show proof that there was an issue with those. I'm not going to say that if you wear Vasks, I've had issues with Vasks, and I found out that their leather boots don't work real well with me, but their other boots do work fine. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, if I had a bad experience with Vasks, so Vasks are crap, and if you're crap if you wear them, that's stupid.
Yeah.
That's just dumb. Everybody should, it's just this thing that you're lesser, you're going to tell somebody they're a lesser person because of they hike slow, or they hike fast, or they have hiking poles, or they don't have hiking poles, or any of this stuff. It's just dumb, and nobody cares. And all you're doing, when I say you, I'm talking about the populace in general, not anybody in particular. Yeah. I'd like to think that the people listening to this podcast are kind of like on the same page you and I are. Yeah. So to a certain degree, I'm sure we're speaking to our audience, but there's just this thing on social media that I really hate, and I see it all the time. Who doesn't hike with hiking poles? Well, a lot of people don't. There was a video the other day, and this is a prime example. There was a video the other day that was posted from the city of Colorado Springs of a mama bear and two baby bears. Yeah. In Garden of the Gods, walking across the trail, and there were people there. They're walking right across the paved trail. They came down out of the scrub oak, walked across the paved trail, climbed the fence, and disappeared into this area in the park. And people were commenting, "Oh, look at that." Some people said some people were too close. I don't think they were. I think everybody really actually behaved quite well. The bears did not act like they were the least bit concerned. Yeah. And somebody had to point out why was that kid in the stroller?
What?
Yeah, because some kid was in a stroller, and I guess maybe they thought the kid looked too big to be in a stroller. And I just replied back, "Why are you triggered?" Yeah. Of all the things happening in there, that's what you chose to comment on? Something that's none of your damn business? And a lot of people were like, "Yeah, what's it to you?" And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a damn about A, that kid in the stroller. It's none of your business. And B, why did you figure that was something you had to comment on? Of all the other stuff that was happening, like this great thing of bears walking across the trail.
It's so wholesome.
How many times do I go in Garden of the Gods, I'd never see a bear? Yeah. But that's the thing this person chose to attack these people because their kid was in a stroller. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Nobody cares what you think. And I'm not going to tell people to not say anything. It's none of my business. But I just think that it demeans and it devalues not only social media in general, which, trust me, it's hard to get any lower than it is. But it also devalues you when you make that comment because you're going to get attacked because you're going to look like an idiot. Yeah. That's the comment you chose to make. That's what in this whole scenario, that's what you chose to comment on.
Yeah, and it's such a wholesome video. It's something really cool, and
you've seen it, right? Yeah, it's a great video.
It's a great video.
Everybody was really behaving well. Everybody's like ooh and on, but I don't think anybody got close to the bears. The bears did not seem to be bothered.
Yeah, and well, it's like when I saw the bear in Bear Creek Park 2 years ago or so. It just walked right by me, and I mean, it was a lot closer than I would have liked it to be, but it just walked right by me.
Obviously, was not bothered by you at all.
No, and when I saw the bear, I jumped back. I said a cuss word because I was just like, whoa, like. But the bear didn't flinch or react to me like saying anything, right. and then I just watched it as it just went back into the grass, and right. and it was a cool moment. Should I have like immediately started stepping back and stuff? Like, sure, because I was just kind of like shocked. I was like,
you're surprised, and it happened so fast, right?
Yeah.
How long did the whole thing last? A couple seconds?
Yeah, and I was drinking water, and I just see this dark mass walk by me, and then when I looked down, I was like, oh, okay, like that's a bear.
Yeah. Now, when we see these videos, there's a whole page on Instagram called the Torons of.
I love that page
of Yellowstone. There are people there who are purposely misbehaving.
Oh yeah,
there was one of people riding their scooters on the boardwalk. There's a rule against that. I'm going to have an opinion about that, not because they have scooters and they might need scooters, but they're doing something that's blatantly illegal. So I'm going to maybe make a comment on it. Usually I don't, because there's already 3,000 comments and they don't need another one saying the same thing that everybody else already said. But I'm not commenting on their choice of clothing or anything, or I'm commenting on their behavior, which is blatantly just wrong. And there's laws, against it. So, so everybody's going to say I'm beating on both sides of the fence here. I might be a little bit. But you're never going to hear me say, that person is a crappy hiker because they hike too slow. Or that person is a crappy hiker because they hike so fast. Or look at that idiot not using hiking poles. Because it's just, everybody's different. You'll more likely not see me with hiking poles if you're running to me outdoors, because I just don't use them that often. Should I use them more often? Maybe, but, my orthopedist doesn't seem to think they made any difference in my ankle injury or anything like that. So nobody's told me, none of my doctors who know me better than anybody else have said, you should probably use hiking poles. They haven't told me that. If they tell me that, then the set that I have in the back of my Jeep all the time will probably come out more often. So, I don't know. Everybody take a breath. Kevin, one last thing I wanted to talk about real quick. Oh, two things real quick. On my photography website, bobfalconephotography.com, I added a new page, a new collection, I should say, a new gallery of photos from my trip to Iceland. Now, they're mostly puffins and waterfalls, but there's a couple other pictures on there. So anyway, if you're looking for photos to decorate your home, or gifts or cards or something like that, check out my photography website. There's a whole new gallery. Just put it up this past weekend. And one other thing, if you'd like to become involved in how our parks are managed, El Paso County is looking for new members for the County Park Advisory Board, which I was a member of for 6 years. They're taking applications till August 15th, 2025. Their volunteer applications are located, and I'll post a link in the show notes at elpasoco.com or bocc.elpasoco.com/volunteer. And you can apply there. That is a great way. You and I have talked about this before. Being a member of the Park Advisory Board like I was, and friends groups, and the TOPS Working Committee. If you really want a better understanding of how these park systems are administered, and the finances and all the little nuances that the general public just doesn't see, this is a great way to do it, and it's a great opportunity. So if you'd like to do that, you have until August 15th to get your application in. If you have the time, their meetings are at 1:30 once a month, 1:30 in the afternoon once a month, I think on a Thursday, I forget. But in any case, this is a great way to become involved and become more educated and more knowledgeable about how park systems are managed. So I'll put the link to that in the show notes, so check that out if you're interested in doing that. But you have till August 15th to apply. So it's going to be about 10 days from when this podcast airs. So check that out. Kevin, I think we're ready to wrap it up. You got anything else you want to talk about?
Nope, I think I'm good.
Everybody, thanks again for listening. And Kevin, thank you for being here. Always a pleasure having you here.
Of course.
Since we went to twice a month, we don't have you here as often as we like to, but I'm always excited when you're able to accept my invitation to be on the podcast and have you on here. So it's good to have you back. We have some stuff in the works. I'm not sure the timing of that, so you may hear Kevin back here in 2 weeks. If he's not, he'll probably be back here sooner, maybe sooner than or later than that. But in any case, Kevin will always be back at some point in between guests and stuff like that. So with that, everybody, thank you for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. We'll talk to you later.
We'll talk to you later.
See y'all.